Hello and welcome to, I almost said Pianocraft. This is Pianocraft, but pulling back, this is the Artisan School where we teach Pianocraft. What is Pianocraft? Pianocraft is not just piano servicing. It's the intangible fun, artistry, the mastery, the vibe that is behind piano servicing. And it's funny because I saw a comment the other day by somebody on YouTube, and they said, I like watching these things because you guys all have that same like joy and that same spark for what you do. And that is true. There is that within this group, within this community that we're building, there's this excitement, there's this fun, there's this mastery, and it's a weird thing where mastery and joy and just fun and excitement come together. And I feel like that's kind of what we're all about, is having fun doing the work that is piano servicing. And today we're going to try to have some fun. I think we are. We're going to be doing hammer surfacing, hammer shaping. And I've talked about this before. Hammer surfacing, hammer shaping. No, I'm doing a hard line. This is hammer shaping. It's not just hammer surfacing. I'm not just lightly trying to get grooves out. No, I'm trying to sculpt. I am. I got my chisel and my hammer. I'm going to be sculpting these hammers because I want to get something out of them. You know, shaping and reshaping the hammers is one of the ways that we can voice the hammers. You know, it's a very critical one, is having that proper shape so that we have a really good sound, the right attack. And a lot of that starts with the hammer shaping process. I would have to say that along with like repinning and light regulation work, hammer surfacing, I'm going to use that. I just know I'm going to do it. Hammer surfacing, hammer reshaping is that other skill, is that other service that is just all the time something that we should offer as technicians. It's a major improvement to the piano, but I have to say most technicians do the hammer shaping poorly. And I think it's because a lot of technicians, did I say most? I shouldn't say most. I've seen technicians do this poorly. I've seen a lot of technicians do this poorly, but probably not most. The way to shape and surface hammers is we want to maintain the integrity of the shape and really have this curvature towards the top that is focused as a point, but not terribly focused. It's just enough. And where I see technicians go wrong with this is they just kind of round out. They just round out the top of the hammer, the crown of the hammer, to get rid of those grooves. And you're just left with this bulbousy, oblong type hammer. And honestly, it takes a lot more work to retain and reshape the hammer than to do that. So I understand it. I hope for folks watching to inspire you to go a little bit further. Now, a lot of times we start with that. We start with just shaping the hammer, getting those grooves out. But then the final stage is actually resetting the shape and getting things the way they need to be. Jacob, I feel like I just threw so many technicians under the bus. I apologize. It's just a pet peeve of mine.
I feel like it's easiest to say what you say with what you just said. With first step is picturing the right shape.
Ooh. Yes.
Before you even pull out your tools, you need to know what the hammer is supposed to look like.
Yes. I don't have a hammer on hand to show that. I might.
I have an old hammer.
You have an old hammer. I think I have a new hammer. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's what I used to do. Just look up like,
Robert
oh yeah,
has
there you go,
one.
Robert.
Robert, I'm spotlighting you. Beautiful.
Or even if
you just
even
got
if you
new
looked up,
ones. Is that the Obel one?
you got Renners, didn't you, Robert?
Is that Renner?
I got Renner, but this is my old one that I took out.
Those are old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Steinway,
have a new
probably
one?
from the 70s. It's the one that has
Yeah.
the Teflon bushings.
Do you have a new one, Robert? The blue points?
Yeah. let's
The
see
blue
it.
points are in the piano, so
Take one out, Robert. Just kidding.
Yeah. No, if you look up Renner Blue Point, talk about a crown. Oh, there you go, Jake.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a new one.
This one, yeah. Yeah, mine look more like that. Like I said, this is the old one from the 70s.
I got some old upright hammers here. Yeah. We've got some old shape. Yeah. David has those new ones.
Okay. So we're talking about blue points, and you can see that slight point versus this guy right here. Look at that one. It's more of just kind of it's kind of a circle.
Yeah.
Is that it? And then there's more of this shape to it, where there's a pronounced point to the top, and then there's so many of these hammers.
Yeah.
Now, I love what you said there, Jake. It's just like it starts with knowing the shape. Now, like for me, the shape is really critical, and it's one of those things that you kind of refine it as you go. It's not okay. Here's an example of what I see a lot.
Yeah, that's what you start with usually.
Yeah. And that's where the grooves are. And a lot of times I see people just kind of give it a chop top, like, what is it, like a buzz cut? And they just kind of like, whoop, and
Yeah.
there we go. I'm done. Off to the races. No, please do not leave the hammer like that. What we want is to get something, closer to this. And again, it doesn't have to be an intense, sharp cut. We need to have a focal point of that center. And again, that doesn't have one right here. That's
a good example. That's a good example of it being like, here's where most people kind of just don't go the extra mile here. And it's really easy. It's really easy to get that shape. It's not that hard. But just picture it. Yeah.
That's better. See that? Here's a not great, just kind of round, and then here's a little bit more of a focus.
Would you hold them side by side?
I'll try something. Just curious. No, that's not as good.
I'm seeing lines in the second camera.
You are?
Yeah.
X, like your X, like it's interesting. It's like graphy. It's kind of cool, but
yeah, we were doing a lot of filming the other day, and I think George kind of did a preset. You're getting lines. Well, maybe that's gonna help.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you can see it. It's just there's a little bit more of a shape to it, a focus on this one, that there's shape to it. This is just kind of there. It's kind of just round. Now, this is actually a better shape than I see most hammer surfacing jobs, if I'm honest with you. A lot of them are just kind of flat topped. And talk to me about what's going to happen when we have a hammer like that that's just been kind of flat topped. What's the sound going to be like? That's the question. What is the sound going to be like?
Not a good tone.
It's not a good tone. It's going to sound unfocused. It's going to sound thin. A lot of times it sounds thin and harsh almost in a way, thin and just weird. And so it's amazing when we shape those hammers to get that focal point, that the piano really just opens up. It's the way these hammers were designed to be. And so that's what we're going to work on doing. This is a job that takes a lot of time to really master. And you're always mastering and refining it, getting faster at it. But there's certain things that you're going to need to have. For the most part, I like to have a voicing block or some kind of a block to be able to jack up these hammers above the rail. And so I have this sitting above, and I am able to put this block so that I'm able to block off single hammers. There's different approaches, and Jake showed another approach which was wonderful. And in it, he, with the upright, especially, was able to thread a like a key leveling stick or some kind of a stick down here, and then tie it, zip tie it, and it makes it so that these are all fixed. And that's a great. I love that one especially for this treble area where we have uniform straight hammers that are tapered, and I can use my sanding paddle to gang file these.
Yeah, definitely in the sections that you're gang filing, go for that.
Yes. Yeah, it just because honestly, that was such a huge one for me, because before that, I would just kind of hold these down as I'm going. And it's way more work to do that. So to be able to go ahead and just bolt these down is great. So getting some kind of a stick that's really thin. I'm talking, 1/4 inch by 48 inches long by about 1.5 inches.
You can even use the upstop rail of the piano you're using.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a good, yeah. Or if you have a key leveling stick, totally. And then zip ties or mini clamps, or small clamps, and then just bolt that down. This is the section that I'm going to be using two things. I'm going to be using a sanding paddle, which, by the way, I just get these clear sheets. They're on Amazon. I think they come in like a set of 10 for like $5. And this is an 1/8 inch. So I like this 1/8 inch. And then I go ahead and buy sticky back sandpaper, 80 grit, 150 grit, 220 grit. And it just sticks to this like, it's just perfect. And so that's what I use. A lot of times I'll double side it, one with like 80 grit and then the other with like 150 grit, so I can kind of finish it off in just one paddle. And then I'm going to use some sanding paper, some sandpaper of some kind. By the way, when you're doing that final sanding, there's different approach. There's an underlying concept, and that is the finer the steel wool, the more you're compacting those wool fibers in on the hammer, and you're going to actually create a brighter tone with that, as opposed to if you're leaving it more rough. You're not packing it in as much. So if I'm working on a piano that just does not have a lot of life in the upper treble, boy, you got to know that I'm going with 220, 300 grit sandpaper, and I'm really refining that top end, packing in that felt to give me more tone. Because for me, I really don't like lacquering hammers if I can avoid it. I like to try to just get the tone where it needs to be organically, naturally. I'm more into the natural, whatever. And the hammer shaping is one of those natural methods that you can, really utilize to your advantage. But I'm going to be using sanding paddles, specifically this larger one in this treble section. In the tenor section, I typically use, first off, I will go as far into the tenor section as possible with my gang filing. And the way you can keep doing that is like if the hammers are straight up and down, and then when they start to curve over to meet the angle of the strings is when you have to stop. You cannot gang file those because it's not going to work out. The shape is going to come off weird because you're basically surfacing the angle of the hammer improperly. So there you're forced to go singles. I typically will have something about this size. This is about an inch and 1/4 by about 5-6 inches. And then I'll have a single needle or a single hammer one. Now I'm using both just for my single hammers. I just like the feel of this one because I can kind of put 2 fingers on it. But then this one's nice too because variety, I don't know, spice of life. Having various different options like that just gives you more tools. And I can't tell you, once you get used to this, you pop on a TV show, you pop on The Office, you're just watching show and just having fun with it. You do feel like kind of an artist as a sculptor if you kind of embrace that. I do recommend wearing a mask. Guys, I just know these fibers are what's going to take me out in like 10 years. And we're like, what happened to David? He's like, oh yeah, he never wore a mask. And it was all those years of sanding and reshaping hammers. So be better than me in this stage in your career and get used to wearing a mask. It's not that I don't believe in wearing a mask. I just never have one handy, and I'm like, it'll be fine. These are clean. But by the end of it, I'm like, oh, that was like, however many hours I spent surfacing these, I like docked that on the tail end of my life. I recommend just wear a mask.
Yeah, and don't leave your open coffee right next to the action.
Oh, yes. I actually even just looked at this. I'm like, wait, no, I'm good. You're
Shots
totally
fired.
right. Don't leave your food or your open coffee. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've had the same thing. Just you start crying in the middle of servicing, and you're like, no, I just love what I do. Oh.
It's painful when it gets in your eyes too. It's so painful. It like scratches your eye, and then your like eye itches.
It's
Even
the
when it's
rest
out
of
of
the
your
day.
eye.
Usually with hammer resurfacing.
Mhm.
That's how it is.
We talked about this a bit at our in-person training. And I just kind of want to go over from, again, we're going to start in the treble and we're going to work our way as best we can. I'm going to tell you, those watching, that this line thing is indicative of how intentional Artisan School is. And we just wanted you to see these lines so you have a good reference point. So you're
You're
welcome.
intentional.
It's what you pay for with the school right there. And so I would just kind of start on one end or the other. For whatever reason, not whatever reason, I feel like I get a better result. I will usually start on this back end if I'm doing, and I'm going to slowly bring up the layers. Then I'm going to go ahead and when I'm about at this half-inch mark. So that is if my hammer, let's do this. So if my hammer, like this is dead center right here. Hold on a second.
You could use the clock. The 9 and 3.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. So if this is dead center, my strike point right there, I'm bringing up the layers on either side to about that point. What would that be? About 1 and 11. I don't know. I never used an analog watch. So I'm bringing up the fibers up to this point on either side. And I'm putting a fair amount of pressure depending on what kind of shape I want, but then I'm letting go of all the pressure, and then this is the point where I'm going to be very careful, because this is where I want to really not touch a lot of that mass. Again, with hammer shaping, we want to get those grooves out, but barely. We want to just get down to where the bottom of those grooves are. So we do not want to take a lot of mass off the top, because every little bit of mass we take off the top, we have to take it more off of the shoulders. And the more mass we take off the top, the closer we're getting to that inner core. And what do we get when we get closer to that inner core? What kind of tone? Anybody?
It's pretty harsh.
Harsh, brittle, and thin sound. I need to, that thinness is a real important thing to kind of remember too. So I'm going to just slowly, go ahead, Mike.
Well, David, I have a question before you start. I think on the in-person training, you talked about looking down the row. Do you ever use a guide hammer, do one with the exact shape that you want, kind of like you would with, hammer distance or something, so that you use that and you're looking down to try and match it? Or what's your strategy there?
My strategy early on was I would have one of my mentors. I've had various mentors, and in varying degrees of intensity. I'll say that. And one of my mentors was very intense when it came to the shape. And so I would literally carry around and have in the shop what he labeled the perfect shape. And so that I would have a bass hammer, I would have a mid tenor hammer, and I would have a treble hammer. And that's what I would just slowly memorize. And so that's what I did for years and years. And so, yes, Robert, you can match, on your piano what shape you want. And honestly, I kind of do that organically here in the treble section because I am refining that shape. And in the treble section, it's easiest to do that because you're doing a gang filing technique. You're able to really get them honed in because they're all straight. You're able to maneuver your tools easier so you can really refine the shape that then you want to carry. But that being said, it does kind of change a little bit as you go into the bass. So, the high upper treble, no matter what, that shape is going to be different than that of the bass. You're not going to carry the same shape. You're carrying the essence of this treble shape into the bass and the essence of what you're looking for. That sounds really nebulous, but I trust that you will chew on this and it will become what it needs to. Maybe it's like chewing gum. You know how chewing gum's really soft at first and you're just chewing it, but then as you chew it for like a day, it's like really hard. And it's like, okay, now it's meaty. That's what this is. This is chewing gum. I'm giving you a stick of chewing gum and you're going to start chewing it. By the end of the day, by the end of the week, you're going to be like, okay, I get it now. What are we doing, Stacy? This is Friday.
A whole day of chewing gum I would swap out my gum. Really,
no, that's
honestly.
what the kids are doing nowadays, Stacy. It's called mewing. It's like, apparently you want this hard jawline. And so I have teenagers. This is what we do all day.
Or you could just put your tongue to the roof of your mouth and learn to hold that and not kill. Anyway. All right. Didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. So I've heard that. Anyways.
I like the idea. I like that idea of carrying your hammers with you.
Thank you, Jacob.
When you're first starting off, I like that. That is really cool because then you're visualizing it.
Yes.
And internalizing that right away. So that's really smart.
So we're going to go through and we're simply going to go and I like, again, to do this back bottom side followed by the top side, getting it up and it's slowly working those layers up to the top and then lightly filing it over. And then what I do is I will lift the hammer and just see what kind of shape am I getting? Am I liking this shape? Is this what I want? And from there, I'll make adjustments. And what I'll find is, oh, wow, I do not have enough of this point showing. And so what I'll need to do, and what I normally will see is like, okay, I don't have enough of that shape. I need to not take more off of the top because obviously that's the opposite. I want to take more off of the shoulders and refine that point. And so 9 times out of 10, I'm just having to do a little bit more of that where I'm refining, taking off mass from the shoulders to get more of that refined point. Again, this isn't a needle point. This isn't something crazy. This is just something to give a little bit more focus to that hammer. So let's kind of do a real world one. Bear with me. So let's say hypothetically we've gone through, we've done all the treble hammers, and we're kind of looking now at the tenor hammers, the midsection. So here is a good example. I mean, this does have some fair amount of grooves. I'm going to use my voicing block or some kind of a block of wood to lift that up. Usually, I'm going to try to do this left-handed, but usually you'll have one hand holding down the hammer on that block so it doesn't want to move upwards, right? And so I like to, and it's funny because Jake and I do the same thing. I like to count how many strokes one way and then match that to the other. Now, I do a lot, like 15 to 25, okay? That gives you some reference. So I'm going to go, and by the way, there's so much mass on this back side versus this side. So I will evaluate that first. And I'll be like, wow, I need to take, no matter what, more off of this back lower side right here. So I'm going to be using my 80 grit, which that will chew some felt. 80 grit. Yes. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I just did 25 strokes like that. Again, I'm going from here to here, and that was about 25. And already I see that that's better, but after those 25 strokes, I only just now am seeing that it's about the same distance, shoulder to shoulder from that core. So I need to go more, right? I'm only now at baseline after 25 of those. So here I go. I'm gonna do maybe another 15. Okay, I'm starting to see a little bit better shape. I'm starting to see some of this starting to happen now, a bit of an angle. So I'm going to do a little bit here. By the way I'm holding it here is like on the back side like that. The way I'm holding it on the front side is more like that. So again, just shows you I'm kind of, it's not, I know people do it that way. This is just the way I've always done it. I just feel like I have more control. This pointer finger is able to kind of maintain that straight position. And so my middle and thumb are holding it in place. Usually I will use one that's about this size because I'm like, don't want to overextend it. But now I'll go through here. And usually what I do is I lift this all the way up when I'm going on this side of it. And it's butting up against this spring rail. Starting low on the shoulder, right here. See, you can see I've left that set, that's what we're looking for. We're leaving that top felt like up there. I literally have like this bunch of fuzz on the very top because I haven't even touched that. So I'm from here going to kind of look at it. I'm like, okay, this is starting to look okay, but I do need to come on this backside. And I hope that you're looking at this and just being like, geez, that is a lot of work. This is a lot of like intentional shaping and careful planning. And yes, because so much rides on this, so much rides on the shape being able to produce the correct maximum tone. And so, well, David, I was kind of doing this as a value added. I saw a technician the other day on YouTube, and he kind of just says, well, I just shaped the hammers really quick as a value added, essentially. And he was just going through and kind of flat topping all the grooves. And I was like, please don't do that. Let's not do that. Let's take our time and do it right, Take our time and really methodically do this. So I've kind of shaped both shoulder sides of the hammer, and I'm just going to I'm like barely touching it. Literally, like the weight of the paddle, just kind of. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. So just like David's doing it, he's basically, he hadn't touched the top at all until he's pretty much had his shape that he wants. So you can imagine there were still grooves there. He's getting close to that shape, and now once he has it there, now he kind of touches that top. And it really is close to the end when you're addressing the very crown of that hammer.
Okay. Yeah. It's so nice to have somebody else kind of like as I do it. That's perfect. Because I get so lost in certain things, but you're right, Jake. I didn't really think about that. The grooves don't ever come off into the very, very, very end.
The very end, yeah.
It's the very end. And so the final thing that I'm going to do is just look down it, and I want to make sure that from the left or the right, I'm not at any kind of an angle. I want this to be squared off, and so I usually kind of take a little bit. Now I'm going to do a little bit of squaring. And honestly, this is a lot better shape. I could refine it more, but my goodness, here's a kind of before, and again, it's just kind of bulbousy, then more of an after. Yeah, that's a reaction. Ugh. This is like, hey guys, and this is more like, hello, how are you? I don't know. This is like my kids say this term, and it's like, Dad, you're looking derpy or whatever. So like, that's derpy, and this is like put together. All the things my kids say. Questions about that as a core, like principles or the basics of that before we move on.
I know a lot of technicians, like theoretically, they say you want to remove a third of the string grooves on the first side, a third on the next, and then you remove the last third. I think that's a little too technical, but you're not really touching those grooves until the very end when you kind of peel it over and get rid of it. And then another question: how do you know, for people who don't, if they've never surfaced hammers before, how do you know if you can even do it? If you have enough meat left, or what are you looking for?
Yeah. There's several factors at play. One of the obvious ones is there any meat in the treble hammers? Because this is the section of the hammers where there's not going to be as much felt. And so we're going to look there and be like, oh, I am right down at the core. There's no room here. There's not. And so even over here, I can, let me see. I have all these hammers. It's so funny. I forgot I had all these things. This is going to be kind of ridiculous, but let's be ridiculous because I've seen this. I've come to hammers like this. So you see that line? That basically they will have been surfaced, and if I were to surface down to the core of where those grooves go down, it will be that. I'd be like, well, no, we're no thanks. This is not going to work out. I'm trying to think if there's even a spec. I don't even think that there's a spec. I mean, there's definitely stuff that's like, hey, optimal. There's optimal, and then there's like pushing the envelope. And a lot of that, I think, also depends on, there's optimal, and then there's what your customer can afford and wants to spend and wants to do. Like, I would say majority of the hammers I'm surfacing, I probably suggested, hey, they're getting kind of to the end of their life. Do you want to replace the hammers? Do you want me to try to surface them and get them, some extra life left, a little bit more life? No, I don't want to spend however many thousands of dollars. I just want to go ahead and just see what you can do. Jacob, do you have a rule of thumb with that?
So I know that there is like a technical spec to it, and it starts with the base and then it's like a ratio, which when I start hearing that, then I kind of turn off and go, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. For me though, with my clients, what I do is, especially if I'm starting to see in the top sections, if it's just like resurfacing is not going to work in the top octave, for example, I'll tell them that. I'll be like, hey, I'm not going to touch this up here. I'm going to resurface up until this point. But if I take off any more, then we're just going to have wood, and that's not going to be great. So I'm going to improve as much as I can, but I'm setting the expectations also.
Yeah.
So that's at least, we're talking about like spinets and things where it's just, we're trying to improve the process. And if they can't afford to put new hammers on, let's improve the rest of the piano at least. That's my rule of thumb.
I get asked this a lot. Well, how much time should it take? How long should it take to surface these hammers to do it right? And honestly, between 2 and 4 hours. 2 if you're really fast and proficient. 4 hours is more the norm. And so this is, if that's the case, this is a 4 hour plus 2 hour job, right? What's those 2 hours accounting for? Anybody?
Travel.
It's the movie that you're watching while you're. No, I'm.
Yeah, it's the episode. How many episodes of The Office did you watch?
Pay for your
No.
subscription.
It's removal of the action, it's the reinstallation, and it's the kind of spacing and things that if you need to do. So yes, 2 to 4 hours of solid surfacing work, shaping work, but then 2 hours of going, picking it up, bringing it back, reinstalling it, making sure everything's good. And so this is 6 hours, 6 times Victor's $500 an hour rate. So this is $3,000.
Yeah, you know it. I got a question, David.
Yeah.
Are you doing some pre-spacing before going off of the string grooves, the initial string grooves? Are you gonna try to move over like some of the worst ones, or are you not doing that until you get back into the piano?
If I have hammers that are like rubbing against each other and just ridiculous, then yeah, I'll do that. Same with burning. If I have some hammers that are just kinked way, way over to the side, I'll go ahead and just with my heat gun burn them so that they're in line with the others. But for the most part, I'm not doing really any spacing at all. I'm just kind of cleaning them up if need be. And then when I get to the customer's house, I'll go ahead and space the hammers to the strings. Because again, we're writing that in the course too, is like, you want to space and align your parts, but unless those hammers are nice and smooth and ungrooved, you don't want to be moving those hammers away from those strings. Same with the dampers. It's hard to teach this, by the way. As we're going through the course and creating everything, it's like, do this. This is the ideal situation. But very rarely will you ever do this in the field because the customer's piano is a 150-year-old upright and they only want you to tune it and maybe fix a couple things. So it's hard to separate those two. And I think that that's where a lot of technicians early on get lost, is they accidentally, because of the spec or because of the overall consensus and expectation, they get themselves into hot water. Like, oh, I was just trying to space and align the parts like I was told. Yeah, you were told that. And that is true, but only if this, this, and this. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, and this is something that we talked about at length in the in-person retreat, is there's spec and then there's reality. And the reality is this is jazz. This isn't a metronome classical music. This is jazz. And we're having to adapt to it depending on the situation, depending on the customer, depending on the piano, depending on our skill level and what we can do. So this is jazz.
I have a customer question, David.
Yeah.
This is very general, but if you could fill in the blank and you sell a reshaping and you've done the correct job and you put it back in, what is the most common response from that high-end customer that says, man, this is so much better, it sounds blank? What is the most common benefit that you hear from customers from this service?
I'll honestly tell you, I'll be honest with you. The honest response of this is very split. I love it. I have more dynamic range. There's more color. There's more sound. There's more projection.
And then sometimes nothing, just nothing.
That's the other response.
They don't
Okay.
say anything. Yeah.
And Victor,
Like it's
Thanks,
probably like, thanks, I spent a lot of money, but it's probably like that, honestly. I'll bet it is.
Yeah.
I feel like for the most part, I'm getting like it's so much cleaner, it's so much clearer, and then also, we've brought back that brightness that, like, that's all it was bright, and there was no depth to that sound. And now you're getting depth. Now you're getting like, here's like mezzo piano, and you can actually get the soft sound. And then when you hit it hard, then you get the growl. And that's what hammer reshaping really does. Because without that, it's just nothing. You have there's no flavor, there's no nothing. It's just a sound. And often it's bad. So.
Robert, your question was so good, my system couldn't even handle it. It's a good question.
Charlotte must not have liked that question.
I was saying it's 50-50. I love it. There's so much more presence. There's so much more power, sustain, color, flavor, whatever. Or what have you done? I thought it, no. I had a brighter, more percussive sound and now it's really mellow. How do I fix this? The second thing has happened is what Jacob said earlier, is the expectation was not set. And so when you were going to your customer's house, you need to identify with your customer, do you like the sound that this has right now? Yes, I love how bright it is. I love the nail shrill glass. Oh, I love that. My goodness, Robert, we do not want to surface those hammers. We do not want to touch that voicing because we do not want to change something that they love. And in the past, as a younger tech, as an arrogant tech, I was like, I know what's best. I know that I can make this better with my opinion on what better was. I go through, blow through, and get this hammer surfaced. And honestly, the sound sounded amazing. Get in there and call the customer in. I'm like, check this out. And they're like, why is it so quiet? Why is it so mellow? It sounds like it's underwater. Ooh. And in that moment, I made a mistake. Didn't set the expectation.
Yeah. Now, Dave, if you do have a client that likes that bright, that brighter sound, but they do want the hammers filed or they really need it and you recommend it, are you still doing that? Are you just doing a higher grit? Or are you really compacting it in like throughout the whole set of the hammers? Or are you going to juice them afterwards?
I'm going to tell the customer that what I'm going to do is get rid of these grooves, which needs to get done. Think of your disc brakes. This is the analogy I use. There's so many grooves, there's so many indentations, and just like your disc brakes, we can sand them down and give them a new life. It will change the sound, and you will have to break everything in again. So just know that it's going to have more of a mellow, more of a soft sound. It will be more of the sound that this piano, this is a clincher, this is the ticket. It will be more of the sound this piano was designed to have. What has happened over the last 100 years is the hammers have been packed in, these grooves have been packed in, and it's got a bright, more of a brilliance to it that this piano was never meant to have. Now you like that, and what we can do is after we surface the hammers, after you try to break them in organically by playing it, if after 6 months you're like, you know what, it's not bright enough, can you come back? I can add a solution to them to harden up those hammers. I've set the expectation. I've given myself a little bit of a lag time for them to organically try to break it in. They know what to expect. They usually will have a worst case scenario in their mind of like, oh, it's going to be so different. But then when they play it, like, oh no, it's okay. I can work with this. But that only happens if you set that expectation correctly. I didn't mean to
giving them a
discourage.
chance in that 6 months to get used to the sound, and maybe they like the new sound too.
Yes. I went to a customer's house the other day, and she was complaining about her Yamaha, it's like a U3, and it was really bright, and it was. And so I voiced it down, and I guess she called like a week later, like, it sounds like it's underwater. I had my piano teacher come, what's going on? She liked it at the time. She liked it when I was done and I showed it to her, but she kind of sat in it and came back. I wasn't able to come back to her for like a couple months just because of our schedules. She was out of town. So when I got back to her, I'm like, okay, what's going on? What do you not like? And she's like, oh, it just sounds really mellow. I'm like, it sounds really mellow for having it been 2 months. And I thought you play every day. And she's like, actually, I've been out. I've only played it one time. And I'm like, well, that's part of the issue. You've not played this at all since I did that voicing. It needs to pack in again. It needs to have some, call me in about 3 months after you have 3 months of playing. And if you still want me to do that, then I'll brighten it up. But it needs to get played in. It needs to be used. So remind your customers of that.
That was awesome. I don't think he meant to do that, but that looked really cool.
I did not mean to do that. That's so funny. Peace.
So many of our problems, so many of my problems with customers end up being not explaining properly. And like you're saying, setting expectations, it usually ends up, that's the callback is, oh, I didn't really
Yeah.
explain that very good. So
Yes.
yeah, that's learn from our mistakes.
Yes. And there are many to choose from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, I have a question for Jake real quick. For grands, in the uprights, you're using a stick to hold down all the hammers to lock them down. In a grand, what are you doing? I can't remember if you talked about that at the retreat.
So there's I think there's a clamp that holds the shanks down. I used to use that, but the screws are really hard to use. So lately I've just been using key clamps, and I'll just clamp the whole thing down, and then I don't have to worry about doing individually, and it's all just right there. So I don't have to hold it down anymore. It's kind of bulky, but I already have it in my car, so yeah.
Oh,
Can we reiterate? I want to reiterate. One of the biggest things to remember is consistency from one to the next. When we're doing voicing, when we're doing anything with our touch, with regulation, it's all about consistency from middle C to C sharp to D, and we're keeping that consistency. And in the same way, it has to be, this is the core of the piano, is the hammer. It has to be consistent. So keeping your eye on that as you go, and looking at the side of the hammer, and then keeping continuing. I feel like that's one of those basic things that you really have to keep in mind the entire time.
Well said. That's so well said, and it's so true, Jake, because I've seen, I'll just use myself early on. I had the perfect shape from hammer to hammer, but from hammer to hammer, it was sized down and up and up and down, but it still, each of them had that shape, but it might be a 16th or an 1/8 inch smaller from hammer to hammer. And I was like, what have I done?
And honestly, that's a weakness in the technical exam for the PTG, because you get a few hammers and they're not in the same spots.
Oh yeah.
No one's talking about that, or at least not in the exam. So that's something that in a real world setting, that has to happen. It has to be consistent.
Oh, this hammer's money. I feel like this is one of those few jobs in piano servicing that is very, it's almost woodworking-ish feeling. You know what I mean? It's real, it's aggressive at points. It's changing things, not just adjusting things. So much of what we do is adjusting. This is permanently changing something. Can't get it back. You can't scoop up all this felt and glue it back together. Like this is one of those jobs that there's a degree. I have an issue, guys. I'm sorry. There's a degree of like fear, which an excitement, and that's hitting my dopamine of just like, oh, I might mess this up. This is exciting. I want to. So
there's artistry in this. And that's where you feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel it. You feel it because there's real risk involved in this service. And for that reason, hammer surfacing, especially on the higher end of the instruments, if our technicians bid a job and they get it, usually I'm the one doing the We had a customer with 2 9-foot concert Busendorfers, and a technician bid kind of for those big packages. I'm like, I looked at these hammers. I'm going to be the one to surface these. I'm going to get these done because there's so much at risk. These are $250,000 pianos, and I want to make sure that they're done just right. And it's not that our technician didn't have experience doing it. They just didn't have 25 years of experience doing it. And there's a lot at play. And so this is a job worth doing. I find that as you're starting out, you're going to be given the pianos. I don't know why this works out, but you're given the pianos, or the pianos are arriving in your vicinity at the level that you're at. And as you skill up, as you level up, the word of mouth, you almost start to get the better and better and better pianos. And that's kind of weird how that works. It almost like organically happens. Like Jake, you and I, when we were starting out, we were not working. We didn't get the call for somebody saying, "Hey, give me a bid for Busendorf for hammer shaping." No,
Yeah,
it was like,
that's true.
but as you kind of skill up and as you level up, and the word of mouth and the atmosphere changes, you will get invited into new arenas. And that's that. All of that to say is, usually people are not getting thrown into something that they can't handle too soon. And so take your time, really focus on the fundamentals of, say, this service of hammer surfacing. Make sure you have your tools, make sure you have your procedures, your processes, and make sure you have those hammers in mind and what the shape should be. Stacy, can you earmark something that we should go ahead and, on the Pianocraft course, have some diagrams that are printable diagrams of the shape that we would recommend, so that people can like just print those off and maybe put them on cardstock, or make them so that would be a cool idea.
Love it. Got it.
'Cause I don't
How
think
many-
Chip over. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. How many sets of hammers do you think you have to do until you like understand, or you get it down? Because I kind of think about it like tuning. Like we say 100 pianos, and then your brain and your whole body kind of understands it. Well, what would you say for hammer surfacing? How many actions do you need to do?
I would say for me, it was about 100 grands and 100 uprights before I kind of was like, okay. What about you, Jacob?
Honestly, I'm gonna say 1.
Oh gosh, he's like mic drops.
No,
I
I'm
knew
not
it was
gonna
gonna
say.
be like a
I'm not gonna
big
say
difference.
me. I'm not saying me. I'm saying everyone. If you're doing one whole set of hammers, you're getting a really good idea. If you're paying
that's
attention,
true.
you're getting a really good idea of how to do this. And
Yeah.
honestly, like, I feel like once you've done one, you can start bidding it out, and you're going to be really confident about it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
You're
true. That's
still going to learn. You're still going to learn for sure.
Yeah.
But it's different than tuning, I would say, because
yeah.
a lot of that fear, a lot of the artistry that goes into it is because they haven't done it once yet. Once you've done it once, I feel like all of that goes away.
Oh,
Yeah. That's 100% true, Jake.
I do agree with that. And the same could be said for like the regulations. Once you've done a whole one,
Yeah.
after 100 of them, you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
But after the
Exactly,
one,
yeah.
you feel calm. That's true.
Well,
Yeah,
and also when you
I
start
like
filing hammers, usually you're usually going real light and like you're really not doing that much. But until you finally commit and go for it and you do a whole set, yeah, you're right. Like that fear is gone. You're like, oh, I'm not taking too much off. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I guess after, one keyboard, you understand that concept. But I do like how I hope that people who haven't done it are watching this first, because it is kind of like anything else. If you don't know what you're doing, doing a whole set kind of might not do anything for you because you don't know what to do. So,
Yeah.
and I think that these are things I wish I would have heard the first time I filed hammers. My mentor is really good at it, but he was never good at conveying like ideas or concepts. So I would just see his work and I would try to copy it, but that's not the same as somebody giving you instruction for it. And this is exactly what I wish I would have heard and seen when I started. And I'm sure I would have got into that point much faster. And like David saw him at the retreat. I mean, I've done, I don't know, probably 100 sets now. And, you know, they're pretty consistent, but the shape was not refined. Even though I knew what the shape should be, nobody ever told me how to get that shape. And I tried one, and after one, I was like, oh, no, that's all you had to do this whole time? Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's why we're building that in the course. Like, we're trying to get it so that it's not like foolproof. It's just that it's so clear that it's easy. Or at least that's what we're trying to do.
Well, and another thing that I mean, Jake and Stacy and I. By the way, thank you for joining, and stay tuned for the next one, and we'll see you on.